one of my personal favorites. A short book, less than 200 pages, Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. Incorporates the wisdom of India. And the main character becomes an apprentice to a ferryman, taking people between the worlds of spirit and flesh. The Sonnets to Orpheus by Rainer Maria Rilke, a German poet written in a sudden spirit of frenzy. And Rilke dedicated this work to the god of poetry. Aaron's Rod by D.H. Lawrence, living in exile. This time, Aaron's Rod has to do with a musician who abandons his menial job and gets involved in politics in Florence, Italy. Also, in 1922, Lawrence wrote Kangaroo in 6 weeks while he was traveling in Australia. The novel actually appeared in 1923. The Hairy Ape by Eugene O'Neill. Eugene O'Neill started coming in real strong in the teens with his one-act plays, The Emperor Jones, giving great roles to Charles Gilpin and Paul Roberson. In 1922, he did one called The Hairy Ape, short play about a stoker in a steamship who starts hitting people, ends up in a zoo being killed by a gorilla. It's a study in social misfit, cannot adapt, maybe like the characters in Midnight Cowboy. Social misfits. Also in 1922, K.C. Scott Moncrief completed his English translation of Swan's Way and introduced the English-speaking world to Marcel Proust. Proust died in 22, and the remainder of his volumes of remembrance of things past appeared throughout the rest of the 20s. Beethoven in the background. Jacob's Room by Virginia Woolf. She was always experimental. She was always breaking the boundaries of conventionalism, trying to find new ways to tell stories. In this novel, the main character is revealed to us through others' observations of him. He goes from young boy into mid-20s. Found it excruciatingly boring. Did not work even as an experimental novel. Felt she was introducing new characters into the novel late into it, like they had no importance, like someone you just see on the street, just throw them in all of a sudden. Her other books I would recommend, most of her major works came out in the 20s. This is Dalloway, The Waves, To the Lighthouse, A Room of Her Own, A Room of Your Own. Harlem Shadows by Claude McKay, a volume of poetry that was an opening flare in giving birth to the Harlem Renaissance. In 1928, Claude McKay had the first black bestseller with his novel Home to Harlem. Diary of a Drug Fiend, Aleister Crowley. Before Junkie Burroughs, Crowley gave us an intimate look at drug addiction. A beautiful couple, a beautiful and damned couple perhaps, traveling through Europe, go down to Capri, have the money wired to them, doing drugs constantly, finally realize, although meaningful behavior, and get involved in some work that they love doing, and thereby getting off of drugs. So it has a happy ending. They find meaningful roles and ways to contribute to the world and leave drugs way behind. The Enormous Room by E.E. Cummings recounts his adventures in the lockup in World War I. Cummings served his country in the ambulance corps, but was found, his patriotism was found lacking somehow. He didn't do anything in particular, but they put him in a detention camp, which I figure was just as well for Cummings, since he did not get gassed or bayoneted or die face down in the mud of a trench. He came back to Greenwich Village to become one of the major manipulators of syntax in the 1920s. Negro in Our History by Carter Woodson. Woodson turned our history away from the miseducation of the Negro. In 1926, he launched Negro History Week. The Negro in Chicago, a study of race relations and a race riot. This was Charles S. Johnson's study of the 1919 race riot in Chicago. Johnson gained national reputation at this time for his work in the field of race relations. The Beautiful and the Damned, F. Scott Fitzgerald. It's a story about Anthony Patch and his beautiful wife, and how they opt to wait on an inheritance rather than engaging in any kind of meaningful work. Well, of course, this goes on. His grandfather lives for many years, and in fact pays them a surprise visit on the night of one of their wild parties. This is the jazz age, right? So I can imagine the free love, the gin in the bathtub, I don't know. But the grandfather is disgusted, and he disinherits Anthony Patch. And when he dies, Anthony has to institute a lawsuit to regain his position in this inheritance. The lawsuit goes on for years. He finally wins the lawsuit, but by that time they're so dispirited, and like the money is no boon to them. Tales of the Jazz Age.